Welcome back to another episode of Coming Out, a special episode today. We're live, coming to you, streaming live on YouTube. We have gubernatorial candidate Dayna Foster. Dayna, welcome to Community News and to Coming Out.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Let's jump right in. Let's find out who Dayna is real quick, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So I am actually a former Broward County public school teacher. I just concluded my last year teaching right on June 30th. Before that, I worked within public libraries under the Broward County public library system. So I've been a public servant since I was 19 years old.
Okay.
And I tell people that public libraries is essentially a social good, right? And we fill the voids and the gaps that government often leaves behind through poor public policy. So whether that's offering literacy classes to constituents, helping seniors with their applications for Medicare, helping constituents with applications for grants, with the youth, helping to prep them for ACT, SAT prep, homework help, offering internet hotspots for our veterans, you name it, right? So filling in those gaps. And after being in libraries for about 10 years, I transitioned into becoming an educator for the last 5 years. And so I've been a teacher at my alma mater of Fort Lauderdale High School. So go Ls.
Okay.
And being a teacher in 2026 is not the same as being a teacher like in 2006, let alone 1996, right? In this day and age, we are seeing that there's no way to escape politics from your classroom because of the state of politics within Florida and the country. And so what we are seeing right now is the facilitation of Project 2025 being spread throughout our entire state. And then now it's reaching us as educators, like within our classrooms. So you have talks about teachers being armed with firearms in the event that there is an active shooter. And most of us educators are not comfortable with that taking place. We're also seeing the rolling out of the FACT program, which is an alternative to AP courses, specifically in U.S. history. And it's to, as Republicans say, combat the woke agenda, to provide factually accurate information, as if we're not already doing that. We're also seeing how within our classrooms, certain students, especially if they're coming from families that are immigrants to our country, that they weren't showing up to school this year because their parents were afraid to leave their homes because ICE was patrolling in our neighborhoods, in our communities, because we have an AG and a governor that willingly bullied municipalities into signing these 287G agreements, thus bringing fear, into Florida and our communities. And so after looking at what happened in the 2024 presidential election, it made me say, okay, let's look at Florida. We've got midterms coming up. Let's see what's exactly, taking place on the home front. And my first kind of go-to look was for governor. And I saw that David Jolly was pretty much the only front runner in the race for the Democratic primary, because I am running as a progressive Democrat. And I waited about a couple of months, because this was at the beginning of the summer for 2025, so around like May. And I waited all throughout the summer to see which one of our Democratic Party leaders were actually going to jump into the race and challenge him. And no one did. So by the end of the summer, in true American fashion, I jumped into the race. I became the leader that I was looking for. And here I am an entire year later with a grassroots-led movement that we've been curating and cultivating. And when I say we, I mean myself and the people of this entire state. And now we are literally the direct competition for David Jolly in the Democratic primary for this gubernatorial race.
There really is in Florida a need to fill that void,
yes.
To go back to sometimes, they say, let's make America great again. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say, let's make Florida great again, because, we've been suffering a lot under this administration. Mm-hmm. It continues to target, he takes on that. This administration takes on federal responsibilities.
Yes.
And federal government responsibilities, like immigration, Alligator Alcatraz, we spend billions there.
Right.
So really, there isn't money for other things, but there's money for enforcement of laws that we don't really have anything to say.
I always say the money is never the issue. The issue is the morals and the ethics and the values and the lack of consideration for humanity within our state. I truly believe that we're in a humanitarian crisis across the entire world. But as it relates to Florida, right, we're seeing that the governor took funds from our emergency fund, right, to construct this makeshift, of a camp to house human beings on the sole basis of the fact that they came from a different country. Like, that's disgusting. And mind you, no one asked Ron DeSantis to do this at all whatsoever, right? This was of his own doing, his own volition.
Free will.
Exactly. And then at the end of it all, which is the irony of it, is that when he goes to seek reimbursement from the current president, he says, oh no, you're not going to get those funds. I never asked you to do this. And he did it to cozy up to Donald Trump. And it's like, look where it got you in this position where you've caused fear, you've caused division, you've also shown how hateful you are as a person. And then, mind you, now we have financial issues because we've used our funds, right, for emergency issues and emergency response just for us to not get the reimbursement back from the federal government. So that right there also shows a little bit of the deficit within the leadership that he actually possesses.
Yesterday, I got a call from a constituent out in. It so happened that they were in Little Haiti, and they saw ICE. Yeah, ICE was there, and apparently, local police was assisting. So. Yeah.
And that's because of these 287G agreements.
Right.
And so basically what that just means is that it's just something that local governments have signed, and that allows local police officers to support the efforts of ICE, which, mind you, immigration is a federal policy, right? And so the president and his administration are supposed to carry out immigration. Now, I truly don't support ICE at all whatsoever. And I know a lot of congressional candidates are advocating for the abolishment of ICE and then replacing it with something else that is actually more humane, because we have people that are dying within our communities across this entire country because ICE has no idea what they're doing. That's just my opinion. So I support that at the state level in the sense of, because I am a gubernatorial candidate, I know that my stances don't affect federal policy, but my morals and my values mean something to the people, right? So
I like that.
Thank you. And so with that being said, what I can do at the state level is ensuring that we are terminating these 287G agreements across our state agencies and public universities, because that falls underneath the oversight of the governor. And in doing so, we're not violating any federal law at all whatsoever. We already follow the law. Right now, what is happening with the current AG and the current governor is that we are overstepping. We are overly supporting the president and his efforts to bring fear and division and hate within this country. We don't have to sign these 287G agreements. They were optional. But local governments were bullied by Uthmeier in saying that it was not optional, because if they didn't sign it, then he was going to take legal action against them. So he put them in a very compromising position. And so underneath the Foster administration, I will ensure that with the new Democratic Attorney General, that we work together to help guide local governments out of their own 287G agreements, so that they understand that they can exit out of them, they can terminate them on their own, and we can move forward in creating a safer and welcoming environment for all Floridians across this entire state.
One of the things I liked about your campaign was a lot of endorsements, and your endorsements come from like all angles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we have a couple of endorsements. We actually were endorsed, for example, by Orlando 5051. They were one of the first endorsements that we had received. And a lot of our endorsements are not actually like political entities. What they actually are organizations that are embedded within the people.
The community.
Correct. The service, the advocacy, and the activism. And that was part of the reason why I entered this race, because I wanted to challenge the system. I wanted to challenge the establishment. We have been 30-year losers as a Democratic Party. And it sounds tough and rough when I say that, but that's the truth.
That's raw. It's real.
Correct. And what we have to ask ourselves as a party is, number one, are we truly the Democratic Party? Number two, remembering who we are. We are the party of progress, of opportunity, and of hope. And right now we are falling short of all three of those things as it relates to the people of this state. And so what we cannot do is run the same exact playing card that we have done for the last 30 years, especially when we look at even Charlie Crist. First time he ran after he flipped, he lost by 65,000 votes. Second time he ran after he flipped, he lost by 1.5 million. I don't want to see what could potentially happen having David Jolly as the Democratic nominee and what he may lose by in terms of millions of votes. This is our home. It's our democracy. We can't just sit by on the sidelines and say, yeah, okay, whatever. Let's just see where the cards may fall. No, we have to make sure every last one of us are stepping into this midterm, making our voices heard through our votes, and making sure that we are being the catalyst for change.
That's one of the reasons why this show went from an LGBT show to more of a political show, because I thought that we needed to bring out those Democrats and show that we had primary candidates that were just as good as you know the other side. And that's my grain of sand, my contribution to this midterm election has been bringing candidates who are of like mind and have that's my contribution. So people ask me all the time, what LGBTQ coming out, it's not. We can transition. We could be at all sides of the spectrum, and we are. Let's talk about something that impacts LGBTQs and everybody. Healthcare. Everybody needs some type of insurance. Everybody needs some type of medical assistance. Let's, Medicare for all.
So I support Medicare for all, absolutely. But at the state level, my authority does not actually contribute to that progress.
Great.
So what I will say is, definitely vote for the congressional candidates that are running that support Medicare for all, whether that's Angie Nixon, Oliver Larkin, Bernard Taylor. We have some amazing people up and down this entire state that are running for Congress.
There is. This year, there's really, Florida really has some really good candidates.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt there.
No, it's okay. And so what I will say is that at the state level, what we can do is ensuring that we're expanding Florida Medicaid. So right now there's a petition. I forget the organization that's over it, but there's a petition that is being pushed through for signatures to be obtained. And in an effort to ensure that in the general election that we have Florida Medicaid expansion on the ballot as an amendment so that you can vote yes or no. And at this time, you do have to have the 60% majority so that once it passes, it can go to the governor's desk and then the governor can sign it into law. So what I intend on doing is ensuring that should that happen, I will sign it. If it doesn't happen, I will use executive powers to ensure that we expand the parameters of Florida Medicaid to ensure that we are providing access to affordable health care within the state. We saw that at the federal level, once I believe it was the Big Beautiful Bill, and it passed, that caused millions of Floridians in our state to lose access to health care. And I always say, if Washington, D.C. won't look out for us, then we have to ensure that we're looking out for ourselves. So the expansion of Medicaid, again, will provide that access. Also, too, within our state budget, a lot of people say it's a moral document. I use the word that it's a live document, so it's ever growing and changing and evolving. And so what we want to ensure, again, like I said, because it's not about the money, it's about the morals, right? Making sure that within the state budget, we are allocating funds to areas that are in support of accessible healthcare. And so what that means is, like, for example, investing more into telehealth, investing more into mental health, and then taking from a legality standpoint, again, collaboration with the Democratic Attorney General, we want to make sure that we are protecting constituents. So establishing some statutes and state laws that are going to protect, like, the LGBTQ community. And the reason why I say that is because you can see that there are a lot of individuals that are being denied healthcare. And so we want to ensure that we have the legality protections in place so that, again, we're protecting all Floridians across the state.
LGBTQ in my heart, in my soul, and it is who I am. I mean, I can't hide it. Look at my shirt.
Love the shirt, by the way.
Thank you. But, you know, we've been impacted so much. What would you do with 1134? It's Senate Bill 1134. How could we defeat that, and how could we stop it? Can the governor put an executive?
So I like to be very transparent with the people, right? But at the same time, I never want anyone to think that there is no hope, because there is hope. So right now, the state legislature is Republican-led. They're not a majority, they are a supermajority. So what that means is that if a Democratic governor comes in, they can put forth, let's just say, an executive order. And if the majority of the legislature votes to say that they want to revoke that, they have that authority. So that's why I want to ensure that we are understanding that this is not checkers, this is chess. We have to be strategic in this midterm election to ensure that we have the correct people in office. So that means, yes, having a Democratic governor, having a Democratic attorney general, and then also making sure that we're voting blue as much as we can for state house and state senate seats as well. And by the time that we roll around into the next 2 years, we want that same trajectory of flipping more House and Senate seats within our state legislature, because what that means is that we will have the power to ensure that bills like 1134 can be overturned or reformed or completely removed, in the sense of making sure that we have these protections in place, right? So even when we're looking at bills like Don't Say Gay, when we're looking at bills that have bathroom bans, when we're looking at the bills that actually ban gender affirming care, what we need to do is ensure that we have the power as Democrats within the state government to ensure that we make the change, and then it's not just temporary change, but it's actually everlasting change. Because I'm thinking about in the future, right? I'm an educator, and so for my students, especially those that are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, I'm not looking to have a quick fix that's just temporary in this moment for a couple of months or a couple of years. No, I want my kids to be able to look toward the future and know that it is bright, it is promising, and more importantly, it is safe.
And when we're talking about SB 1134, we're talking about the anti-DEI bill, really, that, you know, that came about, and you know, so that's what 1134 is, just to clarify. I've been impacted, you know, my day job, I've been impacted with this anti-DEI bill. I'm looking at, you know, going somewhere else in January. My day job seems to be on the chopping block. What would you feel that is right to do as an immediate fix to all this? And it's just not only the LGBTQs. We're it seems like we're starting to discriminate against basically everybody except, you know,
I had heard
one group.
Correct. I had heard a story about one of the congressional candidates that she's running up in Orlando, where because of the anti-DEI stuff, even at the federal level, she lost her job, and she worked like as a nuclear reactory something. More power to her. I'm like, people are like, I don't know how you do it with math. I'm like, listen, the science stuff, it's not my scope and realm. But to even just hear that and to see how she was impacted, I think what has to happen, should Florida elect me to be her next governor, is even if we have a legislature that might come through and veto some of, revoke some of the executive orders that I put in place, I'm still going to do it, because at the end of the day, the people need to see that they have a governor that is on their side. And so as it relates to a lot of this anti-DEI legislation, what we want to ensure is that there is an executive order put forth that revokes it. At the end of the day, we are a diverse state. Like, you cannot get around it, right? And the way that you actually deal with diversity is through equity and inclusion. That's why it's called DEI. And a lot of times people say, oh, my stances or even our policy proposals are common sense. And they absolutely are. It's 2026. Like, we should not be sitting here at this table where we're looking and we're seeing the rollback of progress that has taken place over 10, 20, 30, even 50 years. Like, even at the federal level, we have the rollback of the Voting Rights Act. So through Equal Ground, I signed a pact where I'm promising, and now this is on air, so it's on record, that one of my first actions as governor is to ensure that I'm pushing for a Florida Voting Rights Act, because if Republicans here in Tallahassee want to draft the Florida version of the SAVE Act, then we as Democrats can draft a Florida version of the Voting Rights Act. We can't just lie there and just take it. It's time that we fight fire with fire, and we have to show Republicans that we absolutely have a spine and we have a backbone too.
It's interesting how Florida has become the testing ground for all these policies and procedures that the right has been wanting to implement, and Florida did pass a SAVE Act.
Yes.
So I mean, it's just compelling to see, how they are want to be the leaders of this movement that's taking us back, really.
Right.
Not even like 20 years. We're going back like 60 years, I feel.
Yeah, this has been in the making for such a long time by the Heritage Foundation.
It sure has.
But what I've always advocated and tried to use my platform to raise awareness even nationally is that Florida is the testing site for Project 2025. And that's why they started funneling things so quickly, because they wanted to ensure that while they had that supermajority, they could enact everything from that agenda and sign it into law. Like, these are not just things that are like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just something temporary. No, these are laws that are within our Constitution now. So that's why it's more of, we can't just say, oh, let's just have an executive order. No, we have to take the steps of regaining our power back as a party within the legislature, and then changing the law and reversing some of these things that were put forth by the current administration that's in place within Tallahassee. So I want the entire nation to know that what you're seeing here is going to spread, especially throughout the South, unless we ensure as a Democratic Party that we are, again, taking back our power. And I remember saying at a protest in Tampa that what we are seeing is the resurgence of the Confederacy of America. That is what's happening. And we have to ensure that
Amen
does
to
not.
That
one. Well, yeah, but in terms of just making sure
that is powerful, what you just said.
But it's the truth.
It is.
It's the truth when you really look at it, right? Because as you said, it's about making sure that this one racial demographic is put back into power, right? And what that means is that we're going backwards, not just 50 years, but like 100 and 200 years. And so again, what did that time look like? We had the North versus the South. And I mean, AOC said it when she was in Alabama. It's time for the North to pull up to the South to ensure that we are not going back. So I'll even say it here. Hey, AOC, come pull up on your girl, because we definitely need to ensure that this Democratic primary, we have the correct nominee. And then once we get to the general election, we have to make sure that we are defeating the Republican nominee, whether that's Byron Donalds or James Fishback.
Another topic that I did want to give you a lot of room on, and as we're coming to close, is education. You're a teacher. You've been a teacher.
Yeah.
You've been through this whole process. You spoke about it earlier. Let's talk about education, because really, it's completely changed.
Yeah. So what we are currently seeing in education is, number one, teachers are underpaid and overworked. And again, it's never been about the money. And so what we intend on doing as an administration is ensuring that base pay for teachers statewide is $60,000. What we're also seeing is that students are being required to go to school, right, by law, 8 hours a day, but yet we are not providing them free breakfast or free lunch. That changes underneath the Foster administration. We're going to ensure that we have universal meals across all schools, public school districts. We also are going to ensure that public dollars stay in public schools. And what that means is that no more funneling our public dollars into voucher programs and things of that nature, and even charter schools, right? And what irritates me about that fact of what currently is taking place, like with Schools of Hope also as well, is that we are giving money to these entities, right? Public dollars, and they don't even operate like a public school. Charter schools get to screen who they allow into their institutions. So, for example, if you're a student and you have an IEP plan, which means that you might have some type of learning disability, the charter school reserves the right to refuse your application into their school. But you want our public dollars, but you're not going to accept all students. You're going to screen them, like make it make sense. So what we're going to say is, okay, well, if you want our public dollars, then you need to allow all students into your institutions. And you also need to provide public school resources, just like how any other public school would that receives public dollars. And if they don't want to do that, then they don't get the money. And it's just as simple as that, right? Because what we have to ensure is that we are putting our public schools first. Public schools are pillars of communities across this entire state, especially our rural communities as well. And so when we're seeing the closures of these schools statewide, what we're doing is we're taking away a resource from our families. And that is not okay with me. And so I want to ensure that we are fully funding public education, but also protecting it. I used to say fix it, but then I even evolved in my language during this campaign and saying that, you know what, no, it's not about fixing public education. We can always grow, right, and ensure that we're becoming the best that we can possibly be, because we are 50th in the nation. But aside from that, we also want to make sure that we're protecting it, because right now what's happening is that Republicans are trying to privatize public education and eradicate it. And that can't happen. And I also want to ensure that the board members of the Department of Education who voted to adopt the Phoenix Declaration, who paved way for the FACT program to actually be rolled out into our schools this upcoming school year, that they're suspended and removed from the board, because again, the Phoenix Declaration came directly out of Project 2025. We have to ensure that we are reforming all of these areas within our government from the root, not just the surface, but the actual root, so that we can have the everlasting change.
Is the Phoenix Project the one that eliminates public education?
The Phoenix Declaration is actually what brings like religion, so to speak, like into your classroom. Okay. Again, having the ability to roll out this FACT program, which is an alternative to AP US history. And basically what that comes for is Black and Brown history. So when you're even reading about the content on like slavery,
well, slavery apparently to them was good, you know? It's good.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. But I'm sorry to...
No, it's okay. But that's what... Yeah, but that's the narrative that they want to run with. And the Phoenix Declaration gives them that foundation to essentially change the narrative of history. So to say what they want to offer a factually accurate curriculum where it's farther than that, like than the truth, like make it make sense.
So what do you say to our Black and Brown brothers and sisters who are of that like mind and agree with them? What do you tell them? I mean, it's like you're voting for something that doesn't even like include you in it, you know? And that's what I feel that sometimes I'm going to say it, our Hispanic brothers and sisters fall into that trap, and they feel like they're so proud, and they belong, and then you just go up north 2 counties, and you're no longer American. You're now Mexican, or you're from the country that you belong, you came from. Right. So
I would say to them that what I've learned historically is a lot of Republicans are always concerned with their bottom line, which is their, on a financial document, you have your bottom line, it's your total. They more so talk in green rather than red versus blue. And I understand that, right? Making sure that your livelihood is protected. But ask yourself at what cost? Because at the end of the day, as you mentioned, right now we have people that are in office that their very priority is to ensure that they are removing not just us historically, but even presently. That is why we have, for example, anti-DEI laws in place to ensure that people like myself do not have the ability to, whether it's run for Florida governor or to be a teacher or to be a doctor or to even be a lawyer, right? And so what we have to ensure is that instead of looking at it from all of these different avenues, which are just distractions, right? We have to come together as a people. And whether it's us as a Black community, whether it's the Hispanic community, whether it's all of us as Floridians, there are 23.7 million of us that call this state home. And if we actually come together and we come together on the foundation that this is our home, we will have the power. Because again, democracy is a representative process where the power will always lie in the hands of we the people through our votes. And that will never, ever change.
We've come to our closing time again. And I mean, again, I always say it, we can sit here for hours and discuss things because there's so much to discuss. What do you, on this closing moment, what do you leave us with?
I leave us with that as of yesterday, so that was August 3rd, right? Yes. We had several counties that began early voting. And while maybe some of you have not heard of my name before, hopefully after today, you will continue to tell your family, your friends, your colleagues, people in your community that we have a true blue Democrat that is running to become the Democratic nominee to become the next governor of our state. As I mentioned before, for 30 years, we have ran the same play card, the same plan of action, and where has it gotten us? We are facing impossible decisions every day of whether or not we are able to pay our rent or mortgage versus putting food on the table. We are seeing our either loved ones or members of our community being terrorized by ICE throughout this entire state. We also see that we have governmental officials in place that do not care about us because they are passing pieces of legislation that come for our very freedoms, whether it's our voting rights, whether it's through LGBTQIA plus rights, whether it's through even education as well, and changing history. We have an opportunity to redefine Floridian politics. We have an opportunity to take our democracy back. We have an opportunity to take one of our own, of the everyday working class, and put them in the governor's office to see what exactly is happening within our government. So I am humbly asking for your vote. Election day is August 18th, and we say here at Foster for Florida that we are not riding the blue wave, but we are igniting and spreading the blue flame. Because as I mentioned before, it is time that we fight fire with fire and that we show Republicans that Democrats do have a spine, we have a backbone, and then with me as your next governor, I am ready to take on Donald Trump because fascists fear teachers.
On that note, we wait and see what happens, and we look forward to our next show. Thank you for joining us on this special live stream.
Thank you.
Dayna, best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
It.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.